Today we're going to talk a little bit about the fingerprinting process for alternative certification programs in the New York City Department of Education. Before we do that, we'll take a step back and look at all of the steps of enrolling in an alternative certification program. First, you receive your offer. If you're watching this video, you've likely received your offer along with a welcome guide and a subject area guide that will help you determine whether you want to appeal your subject area, as well as enable you to understand subject-specific testing requirements. You've also had the opportunity to attend an accepted applicant event to learn more about the program, be inspired by the alumni of the program, as well as learn more about programmatic requirements. After you've attended that event, you likely accepted our offer by filling out the enrollment survey and teacher track to let us know that you would be joining our program. After accepting our offer, you'll be slated in the coming weeks to receive your onboarding guide, which has full onboarding requirements, as well as your testing guide. Upon enrollment, we recommend that everyone register for the GRE. As there is no minimum passing score for the GRE, we encourage you to take it as soon as possible so that you get acclimated to computer-based testing, so that when it comes time to register for the Educating All Students exam and the CST exam, you have an understanding of what sitting in one of the computer-based testing centers is like, and you've also had an opportunity to try it out on a test for which there is no passing score, whereas for both the EAS and CST, there is a minimum passing score. Next, you'll get fingerprinted and clear the background check. In the coming weeks, you'll receive an email from the New York City Department of Education Human Resources, and you'll come to 65 Court Street to get fingerprinted. It can take up to 2 months to clear this process, so we encourage you to start as soon as you receive that email. Do note that you won't be able to start the fingerprinting process prior to receiving that email, as there's necessary documentation to fill out that is embedded in Applicant Gateway, which is the portal that you'll use to be fingerprinted. After fingerprinting, you'll be invited to complete online certification coursework that is required by New York State. Our office supplies SAVE and Mandated Reporter, which are 2 out of the 3 workshops that are currently required for teacher certification in New York State. The 3rd workshop is DASA, and you will take DASA through your university or through the New York City Department of Education, independent of our office. Then you'll register for the Educating All Students exam and the CST, or your content specialty test. Shortly thereafter, you'll receive a university guide and prepare for university enrollment by organizing all of the things that we asked you to get on your checklist, so your immunization record, official transcripts, your university application, and recommendations where applicable. And finally, you'll be invited to attend a subject area networking night the week leading up to pre-service training to meet some of your colleagues that'll be training with you. Shortly thereafter, you'll receive your pre-service training and hiring guides, and you'll get ready to start training. Based on the program that you're joining, you may or may not receive your hiring guides prior to the start of training, just depending on when you'll be searching for a role. So let's talk a little more about fingerprinting. The first step is be sure to read all of the guidelines on fingerprinting in your onboarding guide. So based on whether or not you've been fingerprinted before, your steps might look different. Know that if you've been fingerprinted by a charter school or even as a volunteer within the New York City Department of Education, you might need to be fingerprinted again. 100% of candidates have some action step related to fingerprinting. It might not be coming into 65 Court Street and getting fingerprinted again, but everyone does need to fill out a new background questionnaire and emergency contact form to be sure that the DOE has your most updated information on file, and all of that is associated with the fingerprinting process. Step 2. You'll receive the Applicant Gateway email. Do know that unfortunately no steps can be taken until you've received the applicant gateway email. If you don't receive the email within 30 business days after hitting enroll, contact our office as soon as possible so we can support you in troubleshooting where it might have gone. So you might be wondering where the applicant gateway email will go. If you've worked in the New York City Department of Education before, most likely your applicant gateway email will be sent to the email address on file with the DOE. So this would likely be a schools.nyc.gov address. You may or may not have access to this address anymore. Once you have anticipated that you've received the email, if you no longer have access to that email address, reach out to our office. We can verify whether or not the email did go to that address, and then we can refer you to HR Connect to have that email address on file changed. The vast majority of you have not worked in the New York City Department of Education before. As such, the message will go to the email address associated with your teacher track account. Do know that the message might go to your spam folder, so do check mail, spam, and trash for the message, and add NYC DOE Human Resources at schools.nyc.gov to your safe sender list to be sure that you don't miss the email to activate your applicant gateway account. Step 3. Once receiving the email from New York City Department of Education HR, you'll print the enrollment email that you received from our office entitled Proof of Enrollment. Bringing this letter to 65 Court Street will enable you to defer the $135 cost of fingerprinting to your first paycheck as opposed to paying it up front. The Proof of Enrollment email was received upon enrolling in the program, so you might need to look back in your teacher track message center in order to locate it. If you need it resent to you, don't hesitate to contact our office. Step 4. Determine if you need to be fingerprinted and how your prints need to be designated for the alternative certification program you are entering. We encourage you to take whatever action is required as soon as you receive your applicant gateway email. So this part looks different for everyone. I'll walk us through some of the most common scenarios, but if you have any additional questions, do not hesitate to reach out to our office. Upon logging into Applicant Gateway, you'll be brought to this welcome screen. In the welcome screen, if you've worked for the DOE before, as this person has, you might see multiple job titles. So as you can see, this person was a substitute teacher, they were an educational para, etc. So the nomination that's associated with our office is roster evaluate, and the school year that it is assigned to will be the school year in which you are starting the program. So in this case, the screenshot is from 2017-2018. For most of you watching this, it'll be 2018-2019. So once you go to roster evaluate, you can click through the forms requiring action. As you can see, this person has no forms requiring action. They submitted the emergency contact form. That was the only form that they needed to submit. Most people will have more forms to submit besides the emergency contact form, but all forms requiring action will live right in the roster evaluate forms requiring action section. In order to move forward to determine what your next steps are, click on the status screen associated with the roster evaluate nomination. Once you click on the status screen, you'll be brought to a screen that looks like this. The first step is nomination recorded. That is the date that the fingerprinting office entered your information into their system and had an email generated for you. So this person was nominated on April 2nd, 2018. Then you can see this person has all things marked complete as of April 13th. So they filled out their background questionnaire, they filled out their application forms, and they came in to get fingerprinted probably all on April 13th. So all of these items are now marked complete as of April 13th. You'll notice that their background investigation was marked complete on April 16th. The time for individuals to have the background investigation marked complete is highly variable by individual. This is why we really encourage you to get fingerprinted, complete your background questionnaire and application forms as soon as possible. Because even if you've completed everything on your end, we don't know how long it will take you to clear this background investigation piece. It can take as few as 24 hours to as many as 2 months or longer, depending on what your process is. If next to fingerprints here, it says that they are processing or in process, that most likely means that your fingerprints are on file with the state and you need to fill out the OSPRA 103 form in order to send them from the state into the city. Once you do that, it typically takes 7 to 10 days for the city to receive them. Then that item will turn to complete. If your fingerprints say complete here, you do not need to come into 65 Court Street. You will most likely just need to fill out the background questionnaire and the application forms. If you have any questions about reading this status screen, don't hesitate to reach out to our office as we're aware that it is a multi-step process. Here is an example of an outdated nomination. So this person clicked on the wrong nomination, something other than roster evaluate. As you can see, this nomination is from 2015, so it will not make them eligible to start one of our alternative certification programs in 2018. Be sure that the nomination is recorded in 2018 or 2019, close to when you're starting the program, to know for sure that it is the one associated with your alternative certification program. Applicant Gateway comes back into play once you get hired at a school. This is a picture of your teacher application status once you've already been made an offer and staffed at a school. This image comes from something called the New Teacher Finder. This image also means that something should be happening on your Applicant Gateway account to mirror that you've been hired. So on your Applicant Gateway account, you'll have another job title nomination. It could be a teacher nomination or it might be a substitute nomination depending on whether or not your transitional B has been recorded. When you get hired, you'll notice that your Applicant Gateway status screen has the first several items complete: your background questionnaire, fingerprints, and application forms. That's because you already did those things to start your alternative certification program. It then adds some additional items like state certification, job ID, dual employment, and staffing. Those items will be marked as complete as they become complete in your staffing journey. Finally, fingerprints must also appear on your Teach account. In order to be staffed at a New York City Department of Education school, your fingerprints also need to be on file with the state. So when you come in to get fingerprinted at 65 Court Street, you fill out the OSPRA 104 form, which sends your fingerprints to the state. Note that if you fill out the 104 form and forward your fingerprints to the state before creating a Teach account, there's no guarantee your fingerprints will be recorded because you're not sending them anywhere directly. As such, we recommend creating a Teach account prior to coming in to get fingerprinted. Once done with the fingerprinting process, you'll upload this screenshot onto your checklist on your Teacher Track account to inform our office that you've cleared the fingerprinting process. Thanks for watching, and feel free to write in with any additional questions you have.